Hello, I'm Bryce. I'm a physician by training, but I found I really enjoy building medical intelligence. So I founded OpenScope Health to kind of bring those two passions to life. And we are helping patients navigate symptoms, coverage, and next steps all in one place. And to date, we've had 12,000 patients nationwide kind of navigate their care with OpenScope. And this is my friend Charlie, who's an example of one of those patients. Charlie woke up this morning and found a suspicious skin spot on his arm, and he's facing the age-old question all of us have faced at one time or another: should I go to the doctor? Like 70% of people, Charlie's healthcare journey doesn't actually start with a doctor, it starts with a Google search. And after hours of unproductive searching, WebMD doom scrolling, and getting convinced he has 3 different types of cancer, Charlie stumbled upon a new app from his local health system called OpenScope. With OpenScope, instead of static symptom searching, Charlie's actually guided through an adaptive conversation and asked questions like a doctor would ask. He's asked, when did the symptoms first start? What color is the spot? And is it growing or staying the same size? And then OpenScope's AI analyzes Charlie's answers to identify which conditions best match his symptoms. He receives tailored education and next steps and information about which type of care he should approach. 50% of patients delay care because they don't understand their coverage. With OpenScope's coverage clarity, Charlie instantly sees what's covered under his plan, what a copay for a dermatologist will be, and in-network doctors. Charlie finds an in-network dermatologist and books right on OpenScope a next-day visit. He's treated quickly and leaves with peace of mind. With OpenScope, patients find the right care in the right network without the guesswork. And we're a B2B2C SaaS for health systems at a $250,000 to $500,000 a year subscription service. And the return on investment for the health systems is kind of twofold. It's bringing new patients into the system more efficiently and getting them routed to the right care more efficiently. And then also reduction in leakage, a big thing for health systems. Like if 1% of Atrium's patients go over to Novant, that's $5 or $10 million in revenue a year. So the total market is about $2.4 billion, and that's 6,000 health systems at our $400,000 a year subscription. And the kind of initial target is 25 health systems at the $400,000 subscription, gets us to $10 million ARR. So we've had those 12,000 users, and that's kind of validating the hospital routing system we're setting up. And in our initial proof of concept, we routed patients to digital partners like a ZocDoc or a Sesame and saw about 20% telehealth conversion rate there, which is a strong engagement signal. We've been talking with 10 hospital decision makers about pilots. All of those discussions are on the way and progressing. And we built out a HIPAA-compliant, enterprise-ready Azure system. And we're currently in the G-Beta Charlotte Accelerator and the Launch Fund Founder University. So I graduated from VCOM Carolinas, which is down in Spartanburg. I did my hospital rotations in a few Charlotte area hospitals. I founded 2 companies while in medical school. It was a e-commerce coffee company as well as a AI ed tech company. And I've been building end-to-end AI health products for 3 years now. And I actually got my start in entrepreneurship from a social media page I made with my medical school roommates, and we have 100,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram. So the next steps is to kind of finalize those health system partnerships and get the pilot up and running, get a full HIPAA and SOC 2 compliant platform, leverage those pilot data and results to actually get the full first contract in 2026. And we want to see a world where every patient's first question leads to the exact right care instantly in network and intelligently. And it's kind of, what we're looking for is kind of introduction to the tech-forward health systems, especially in the North Carolina and Charlotte area. We really want to get one of our initial pilots set up here and be able to be actually a part of the community. And we're also looking for some referrals into kind of advisory board members like previous healthcare executives or people that have sold to big health systems before. And we're currently raising a $500,000 round to achieve the full HIPAA compliance infrastructure, have a few key engineering and security hires so we can get a multi-tenant infrastructure ready, and launch the first health system pilot in 2026. Thank you for taking the time.
Bryce, that was good.
Thank you.
That was good. Like, seems like a cool product, and like you obviously are a great communicator. And I felt like the use case story that you walked through about Charlie was really helpful in terms of illustrating what's out there.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I had a pitch before without that, and it was always kind of like, yeah, you're doing AI doctor, but like not really clear. And then once I actually walked through that, it was like, oh, okay, I get it now, you know.
Well, I mean, people learn through stories. That's how they learn. So Matt said something to Fitz, which is that you can vibe code software anywhere, that now you can build stuff really fast. And the boundary between access to a market and having a product, which used to be a real thing, doesn't really exist the same way anymore. And now the real challenge in building a company like yours or anyone's is how are you going to be more competitive in getting your thing in front of, to, and installed with your prospects, right? Yeah. And that's like really hard, right? That's really hard. And I think that is the area where like you need to really think about how can you develop competitive advantage there? Do you have a competitive advantage there in selling to health systems?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, like I can confidently say almost no one, I don't know that if anyone builds medical intelligence like I do. You could be a doctor and sit down and try to build AI, and you wouldn't do it well, of course, but you could also be a great AI engineer, and I actually worked with great AI engineers before, and you don't know the medicine, and you'd be confused actually trying to build these medical intelligence. I have a very niche skill set in that aspect, and it's not just like we're hooked up to ChatGPT. We actually have extensive RAGs built out for 16 chief complaint buckets, 31 sub buckets, and over 500 different conditions. So nothing's outputted to the patient unless it's validated by our peer-reviewed RAGs, and which are all physician built and validated. And then it's the same thing for the insurance feature. Those are all built on RAGs from your specific explanation of benefits. So if I have a Blue Care PPO, there's a 300-page document you upload, and you're only getting answers from those exact documents. So the tech is not just kind of vibe coded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and by no means was I saying that. And by the way, I totally believe you, what you just said. I didn't understand every single bit of it, but I totally believed it, right? But I guess what I'm saying to you, Bryce, is that I think the success of your business is probably going to be less tied to the quality of the product, and at least initially, than it is whether or not you can find someone who's your peer in terms of selling to these health systems. Because if you can't persuade them to go buy it, then it'll be a great, amazing tool that doesn't get used the way it should.
Yeah, and I think the kind of unfair advantage from the pure sales standpoint is physician founders do have a much easier time getting into these health systems. Just my cold emails get responded to more than just the average tech guy off the street. So there is a kind of an unfair advantage there. And then the first question they ask is, what if it's wrong? So that's where the kind of tech advantage actually does play into the sales, that we've built out this whole validation RAG to say, well, it's not being outputted unless it's validated. So there's something there too from the sales. Yeah.
I would also lean into your social following. I mean, as an early founder, to have 100,000 followers of your area of expertise and market you're going after, like that's a built-in pipeline right there. Yeah. So I think that's great. So to piggyback off of what Chris was saying on the story stuff, I agree. Like the Charlie story is like the emotional hook in the beginning of the pitch that every investor kind of like gets involved and like starts paying attention for. You actually led the first slide with your traction, which I didn't really understand. You're like, we're showing how many people are using something, but we don't even know what yet. So just like go straight into the story and then talk about the traction after.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of a quick validation. Like, yeah, we're a real company, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that makes sense.
And then, so a couple other things kind of related to traction. So like, you never even told us how much revenue you had today. You told us that you're going to charge $400,000 to $500,000 a pop, but then didn't tell us how much revenue you've made. And like for me, I'm like, okay, $400,000 to $500,000. That's a long sales cycle for health systems. So like, are we closing these 2 years from now, 3 years from now? And how do you know it's $400,000 to $500,000 for early adopters?
Yeah. So it's obviously kind of, if you know the term deep tech, it's almost a deep sales cycle where it's, you're not closing these deals overnight, and it's a lot of meeting with the hospital decision makers and almost like a concierge to get in early. Like I built out that insurance feature actually originally because the hospital CEO said, oh, you know, that insurance drop down could be useful. So you almost have this deep sales concierge type strategy where, and our revenue is, I mean, we have $1,000 a month from the referrals on our direct-to-consumer platform, but the real focus now is on the enterprise. So I don't include too much about that. But yeah, you're kind of getting in the door, meeting with them, concierge, getting the pilots, whether that's just kind of a largely reduced price or even free to get the data. But that's a very important step of saying, oh, wow, we actually did reduce your leak by 1% with this platform, which is $5 to $10 million in revenue. So that's the most important step to get that first pilot, get the data, and then kind of start that deeper, actually official sales cycle.
Gotcha.
You know, the story about Charlie's great. It might be really cool to pair that with a story about someone in the hospital system who's losing revenue.
Yeah.
To really illustrate that. Yeah.
I think that's the place where I would like a little bit more specifics. It just, the business model for me isn't quite as clear. Fun fact, I was actually in the room when WebMD was born, and yeah, it's a lead generation business, right? So like this starts, B2B2C is kind of interesting because you have the suffering of a B2B sales cycle and the suffering of you know, capturing a wide audience in the consumer space, and so there's a lot of suffering in B2B2C, but it's also a massive opportunity when you can, you know, when you can crack it. So I think it's really interesting. One of the things that I wanted a little bit more clarity on was just like, is there a value proposition for the subscription inside the business? Is it making their business better, or are they relying on, you know, kind of people, consumers from the outside being referred into their business because of the symptom checking side? The only reason why I ask that is because I would imagine that a lot of these businesses are going to be provided software that manages some of the workflow within the business, whether it's an intake when you go into urgent care and they're asking you some questions or something like that. And so I think I'd like to know a little bit more about that aspect. Is it actually a workflow and a business process tool within the enterprise, or is it just to drive traffic in and connect them up?
Yeah, so there's kind of two different phases, I guess, if that makes sense. And that for the 1.0, we didn't want to be collecting patient identifying information at all, so that we can easily integrate with a hospital IT system and get that set up much faster. But the long-term idea is much more to say, all right, these patients went through, answered these in-depth AI questions. We already have 12,000 data points. We get 1 million data points. We can probably start training our own open source models for these type of things. But taking those questions and actually delivering a doctor a door note, if you know that term, kind of that when they don't do it anymore because everything's digitized, but when they used to walk up to a patient's door and see kind of like a list of all the questions that the medical assistant asked. So the idea is to eventually have that full integration where that's delivered to, we say hospital systems, but it's really about the clinics that the hospital systems are connected with, like the 5 dermatologists at Atrium or whatever. So if you book with the dermatologist at Atrium, that doctor is instantly getting a kind of door note list from the app that says all of that, and probably could diagnose from there, and they can just go in the room and kind of check. It's like the, if you guys know the AI scribe companies, Ambience, Abridge, they both are billion-dollar companies now, and it's all about collecting data to kind of start that doctor autopilot. The transcription itself is kind of a commodity, but it's the same thing, but from the front door now. So it's kind of it's very crowded space on the back end in the actual patient's room, but the front door is much more wide open and kind of trying to do that same type of strategy.
Bryce, I think you sort of hit on these points all separately, but like I would love a slide in here that shows the value proposition for every single stakeholder in this sort of value chain. And like one thing I think you kind of skipped over was the insurance companies are a big part of this, right? My understanding, and I'm innately very negative about health insurance companies, is that they're not trying to make it easier for the patient. Complexity is their benefit. And so how do you get them to buy in? Are they a paying customer? Are they just a stakeholder in the process? Like, how do you get their data into your system in a way that benefits them?
Yeah, so the insurance company is obviously a very complex system, but I don't think it's fair to say that they don't want their patients routed into care more efficiently, because it just creates a lot of headache from their end if the bills are coming from all different places out of network. It's everything smoother for them if they're going to the right doctor in network. So it's more of a neutral at very least. And then, so in terms of like actually integrating the insurance like data into our product, basically, those are actually documents that the health systems would have. So every plan that Atrium or Novant takes, accepts, they have a 300, 400 page document basically outlining all the benefits from the insurance company, but they already have that on file. So we don't actually need to get that data from the insurance company itself.
Both Fitz and Bryce. There's a lot of AI companies out there today who are fundamentally saying there's a high volume of demand that creates a headache for someone who's trying to intake things, and I'm going to use agents and AI to make that much more simple for them, right? And you've got one target market and you've got another one, and they're different products, but there's parts of it that rhyme. Don't you agree? Yeah,
For sure.
And what Matt said something really smart just a little while ago. He said, what's your distribution hack? Right? What's your distribution hack? If that is your flavor of value proposition and you don't have a killer distribution hack, it's going to be hard to differentiate yourself in front of investors. Do you agree with that? Yeah. And how would you define the term distribution hack that you used?
I think it kind of drives me nuts when we always ask this in our diligence call. It's like, what is the most creative way that you go to market? And people say cold calling or Google Ads or like kind of the run-of-the-mill things that everyone else does. We don't want to hear about those things. Everyone does them. It's, hey, I have a very special relationship with this channel partner. Hey, we've explored this trade group that no one else has tapped into. Like, those are the creative kind of things that, I mean, depending on the industry, they're all different, but like those are the kind of things that sort of get us to go eyes wide open.
Yeah, and this was, I mean, we sold Pazer 2 years ago, and our distribution hack in whatever year it was, 2014 or 2015, was 800 hotel room nights a year, right? We actually went out in the world and met with people out in the real world when people were trying to get away from that. And that helped us build something that was worth $250 million. And so, like, if you're out in the audience and you're thinking about this, you should write down the term distribution hack, right? And you should come up with a list of more than one, and it shouldn't be emailing and cold call, right? Cool. That was really good, Bryce.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bryce. Yeah.